Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteem Horror in the Hamptons. The aspiring angel tries to escape a house of horrors in this action-packed, all-new Esteem series adventure. Get your copy of Esteem Horror in the Hamptons in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. One of my viewers wanted to know why the so-called Black and Brown Coalition never worked. Well, the reason why the Black and Brown Coalition never worked is because Brown never had a coalition with Black, because Brown was basically allied with the institution of white supremacy. Now, what many people don't talk about in the Latino community is that many Hispanics basically were seen just like white people and enjoyed many of the benefits of being white. Moreover, when it came to many Hispanics, they basically were looking to be a part of the social pecking order of white supremacy and had no interest in supporting Black people in the civil rights movement. Now, when it came to many Hispanics over the years during Jim Crow, many lived lives very well, just like many white people. And if you look at history, there were lots of Hispanics who lived very well, such as Lola Vargas, Rita Hayworth, and people like Desi Arnaz, and they basically were allowed to integrate straight into society and become a part of American culture and become a part of American history. And with these Latinos basically being a part of American culture and American history, they basically were allowed to again be a part of that racial pyramid of white supremacy and be able to enjoy the benefits of the racial pyramid of white supremacy, and again allowed to assimilate similar to those other peoples, such as some people who were a part of the alphabet community in Hollywood, and some Asians who were allowed to assimilate into society. And many people, again, were allowed to be a part of that racial pecking order in that pyramid and enjoyed those benefits as long as Black people remained at the bottom of that pyramid. All of these people were perfectly fine during the days of Jim Crow and segregation. However, as Black people started to go out here and fight for their civil rights in the late 1950s after the death of Emmett Till, this is where a lot of the pyramid started to shake. And as it started to shake, what was happening here with these other minorities were they were looking to go out here and jockey to get higher up on that position as related to the system of white supremacy. And many Hispanics basically enjoyed being in that secondary position above white people, but they wound up with their position basically being shaken out as Black people started to go out here and assert their civil rights. And as Black people started to try to fight for their civil rights, this is where Hispanics in the pecking order basically wound up losing their high position in society, and wound up losing their high position in society because white supremacy basically, it was out here looking to go out here and capitalize on the economics of the civil rights movement, where they were looking to integrate Black people into their society, but wanted to integrate Black people not to, again, go out here and give us our civil rights as related to things. No, they were thinking about looking to gain an economic advantage by undermining the Black economy that had grown out of segregation, because as we were coming into the civil rights movement, the Black community had grown into an economy that basically was like a second nation in this country. And with the Black economy basically being like a second nation, what the white supremacy feared was having to compete with that economy had the sleeping giant of Black people basically woken up and realized that they could go out here and break away from this codependent relationship where Black people were basically living as second-class citizens to creating their own community and their own culture and their own economy that was under their control. And what the whole aspect plan for the civil rights movement was to use it to again promote the whole concept of integration, and promote integration because they did not want to see the black economy continue to grow, because had the black economy basically grown and actualized its potential, the black economy basically would have been as big as Japan's economy or many other smaller European nations, and would have been twice as competitive as Japan's economy, because with all of the knowledge that black Americans had, they would have gone out here and again built an extremely competitive economy. So what white supremacy wanted to do was go out here and look to cut that economy off before it could basically grow to actualize itself. And that's where they came up with the idea of, again, looking to integrate people and looking to pass laws like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And sadly, many black people, because they had low self-esteem, went out here and looked to go out here and get allies to, again, look to bluster their position. And this is where other groups like Hispanics look to go out here and form alliances. And they look to form alliances because many Hispanics here in America basically wanted to get back to that secondary position as being the top minority in this country on the same level as white people. They basically wanted to get their white card back. And they wanted to get their white card back because basically what the country wanted to do was again put them in that secondary position, because they wanted to get that black dollar, and they wanted to get that black dollar and get that black dollar to be able to again finance the overall economy, so that they could continue to live a higher class lifestyle where they could go out here and live off 97% of black dollars, and then go out here and be able to make a higher class lifestyle for themselves. Now, when it came to Hispanics, basically, again, they wanted to again tether themselves to foundational black Americans, and wanted to tether themselves to foundational black Americans, not only because they wanted to get that secondary position in the social pecking order of white supremacy and keep black people at the bottom, but they also wanted to go out here and gain economic and political power at the expense of black people. Because again, a lot of black people basically have this low sense of self-esteem and are not really focused on empowering ourselves. No, many black people are basically focused on social acceptance, and because a lot of people are focused on social acceptance, especially members of the baby boomer generation, their main focus is looking to get social acceptance and get social currency with other groups as related to getting accepted. And as they're looking to get accepted, what happens is a lot of these other people, like Hispanics, were seeing the economic and political advantages they could get in black communities. And sadly, a lot of black baby boomers basically, again, looking for social acceptance, look to form coalitions with other people, like they did with the civil rights movement, where they looked to form coalitions with other people who were foreign-born blacks who were basically suffering the same oppression, and looking to go out here and form coalitions with Hispanics, looking to form these coalitions because they felt that by having larger numbers and having support from other groups, they could create covert contracts where they could not only get the things that they wanted as related to government, but get that social acceptance. That's always been the Achilles heel of a lot of foundational black Americans, is that we always look for this social acceptance and validation and approval from whites and non-blacks, but their whole racial pyramid always has us at the bottom, and many of us never really connect that dot, that we are seen as being at the bottom of their pecking orders. And basically what these other minorities are doing are jockeying for that number 2 position that basically many whites basically put black people in as related to politics during the days of the civil rights movement. They put us there because they wanted to get that economic advantage over us and didn't want to have to compete with us. This is the thing that many people don't understand when it comes to many of the whites in the West, they don't want to create competition for themselves because white supremacy in and of itself is a lie. And a lot of people want to believe that the white people are dominant, but they are only dominant because they have eliminated their competition in black people, the people who basically wound up building this country and built a secondary economy after the Civil War that was, again, basically on the same levels as Japan. And if it were allowed to expand, the black economy would be on the same level as the one in Japan and South Korea. It would basically be one of the most dominant economies because, again, right now it has over $3.3 trillion in spending power of cash and credit. And sadly, many black people don't see the value of our dollars. And sadly, again, I'll repeat it once more, 97% of black dollars go out of black communities into other people's communities, making them into a middle class that lives an abundant life better than black people who continue to live in poverty, basically be due to our mindset and perception of self. We basically, again, put ourselves in a mental place at the bottom, and instead of seeing ourselves as being on the same level as white people, we see ourselves and again fit ourselves into black boxes that are acceptable to white people, and not seeing how this whole racial pecking order again is about keeping you at the bottom, and having you thinking that you can go out here and be a part of a coalition, again, a coalition that has never benefited black people. And I've seen this firsthand living here in the Bronx, growing up in the South Bronx. Growing up in the South Bronx, I've seen the so-called black and brown coalition never work because a lot of black people would go out here and who are a part of the baby boomers and Gen X, they would side with Hispanics, and they basically saw that black people never got any sort of economic or political power whatsoever. And I saw this firsthand growing up in the South Bronx, where a lot of black people, as related to economics, basically went out here supporting Hispanic bodegas, and many of those people basically were working jobs like the transit and many other jobs. Some people were on welfare, and as we went out here spending money at the Hispanic bodegas, buying ham and cheese sandwiches, spiced ham sandwiches, chopped cheese, and Pepsi Colas, and bags of chips, what would happen is the Hispanic store owners in that neighborhood would go out here and finance their kids having educations at Catholic private schools and send their kids to good universities, and they went on to live a middle class lifestyle. Meanwhile, many black people couldn't see things going on as their kids went to terrible public schools, and their kids had to deal with being tormented in these public schools and get a low-grade education. No, many black people couldn't see how they were basically financing a lot of the people in that coalition to, again, live better than they did. Moreover, they were all looking to, again, vote for candidates here, like in the Bronx. We voted for a Hispanic Bronx borough president, told to do this because it would be a gesture where we thought a covert contract would be fulfilled as related to us, and we thought we would be able to get some support from Fernando Ferrer, the first Bronx borough president, who went on to become the borough president for, again, I think a good 12 to 15 years. And as Fernando Ferrer became the Bronx borough president, the Hispanic community basically came and dominated in the Bronx to the point where the Hispanic community is the majority of the Bronx. But that wasn't the way it was back in the 1970s and 1980s when the Bronx was mostly black, but it was all because of the black-brown coalition that Hispanics basically took over the Bronx, because many black people were not aware of the subtle politics transpiring around them and were not aware of the racial pecking order as related to white supremacy, because they were so busy looking for social acceptance, they couldn't see how many Hispanics were looking to, again, get economic and political power at the expense of black people who were, again, looking to be socially accepted and socially liked in a community where white supremacy expressed its contempt for black people by going out here and creating laws on the federal books, like Joe Biden's law that says that crack cocaine was you were punished for it at a higher sentence versus powder cocaine. And basically, the war on drugs waged on the black community by people like Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and the flooding of black communities with crack cocaine, which led to, again, a complete decimation of black communities, where a good chunk of black men wound up, again, either dead or in prison. That's what the, again, black-brown coalition didn't really see, that Brown was, again, working against black, because Brown was working with white supremacy to bring drugs into black communities. Brown was working towards bringing drugs into black communities, and sadly, many black people, we didn't connect dots to see that there was never really a black-brown coalition on the Brown side. No, Brown was always allied with white supremacy and allied with looking to rise up in the social pecking order of white supremacy. No, Brown basically was never with black, but you got a lot of black baby boomers and some silent generation black people who basically bought into this whole delusion, bought into this delusion because of the low self-esteem that they had, that they needed somebody else to bluster their numbers, and we didn't understand our value of self, and that's why a lot of black people go out here and think that they need to have a coalition, not understanding that many of the people out here who you want to have a coalition with are basically looking to keep you at the bottom, because they are basically competing in the system of white supremacy to go up the social and racial pyramid. That's what many individuals are looking to do, whether it be Hispanics, whether it be Asians, whether it be East Indians, whether it be Arabs. All of them are jockeying to get that position in white supremacy, get that position where they can be seen as the so-called model minority. But many of them don't really see that when it comes to white supremacy, they are never going to get that position because, again, white supremacy is a lie, and with white supremacy being a lie, the whole thing is they need you to buy into the lie so that they can go out here and continue to maintain their dominance. They can only maintain the dominance of their racial pyramid if spellbound individuals go out here and buy into that pyramid and try to fit themselves into the boxes that are acceptable to white supremacy. That's the only way they can again, keep that power, because when it comes to white supremacy, it's basically a house of cards. It's a house of cards based on lies told by the devil that white people are gods, and they are the ones who control the whole house of cards by keeping you buying into the lie where you fit yourself into a box, thinking that you need to have coalitions to fit in with into these boxes that are acceptable to these white people. And sadly, what happens with many spellbound black folks is they try to fit themselves into the box that they think is going to be second on the pecking order as related to the pyramid, but they don't see that this pyramid scheme is basically designed to keep black people at the bottom, keep them chasing this dream that they will basically be accepted and everything will be on a level playing field. But the game was rigged from day one. But you can't explain that to a lot of black people, especially a lot of baby boomers, some Gen Xers, and a lot of people from the silent generation, and even some of the millennials. You can't really explain it to people because a lot of people don't buy into the truth because they want to, again, buy into the delusion of being a part of this pyramid scheme, not seeing that this pyramid scheme is, again, designed to keep you chasing a delusion that isn't the reality, because God made all people to be the same. And again, in the world, again, we serve God. And again, what these white supremacists want you to do is see them as a God and put them before God so that you won't be able to live an abundant life, and keep you out here chasing the approval of white people, these false gods. and again, keep you from going out here and competing to actualize your potential and fulfill your work in God's order. That's what they do as related to black people. And again, this whole black-brown coalition is part of that lie. It's a major distraction that basically messes up black people because we think we need allies when in actuality you have no allies whatsoever. You have absolutely no allies whatsoever, and the only people you can work with are other black people. But sadly, a lot of black people again have been brainwashed by white supremacy to basically fight against other black people, and as they fight against other black people, they basically are their own worst enemies, undermining each other and undermining each other to the point where you think, oh, this person who's a part of a coalition is for you, but it's not for you because they basically look to stab you in the back because they want to, again, climb up on your back. And that's sadly what's happened to a lot of black people. We've allowed a lot of people to climb up on our backs as related to these so-called coalitions that will give them some help in a covert contract, thinking that they will help us. But in actuality, what happens to black people is they winding up getting no help as these people get into positions of power, like here in the Bronx, where Fernando Ferrer became the first Bronx borough president, and the Hispanic community basically took completely over. As they completely took over, they wound up taking many of the city jobs, such as the county clerk at one time, and such as many other positions that were, again, secure for positions as related to government, and they control, again, most of the borough's businesses. And black people thinking, oh, there's a coalition. No, there's no coalition. No, there's opportunistic people who look to take advantage of naive black people who are not aware of their economic and political power, not aware of the 3.3 trillion in spending power that we have as a collective, not aware of the economic and political power we have as a voting bloc, not aware of the economic and political power we have as a collective. And again, a lot of black people basically still have this low self-esteem and this low self-worth based on years of living in white supremacy. And again, that white supremacy is the reason why these so-called coalitions just don't work, because many of the people who we make coalitions with are not working for us. No, they're working to be in a higher position in white supremacy, and anytime you work with them, they're basically working against you. So this was a video requested by one of my viewers, and if you want to request a video, you can drop a donation for a minimum of $15 to the PayPal or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if I know something about that subject, I will make that video for you. And if you want to pick up some of my books on the SJS Direct imprint, whether it be books in the SJS Direct universe, such as those in the ISIS series, the Esteem series, the John Haynes series, the books of the Spinsterella trilogy like Spellbound, which goes in depth on the spellbound mindset that black people have and how to break out of the spellbound mindset. And you can also pick up my men's issues nonfiction. All of those books are available in paperback and Kindle format on Amazon.com, and you can find them all by clicking the link in the description box. And again, that's all I have to say for this requested video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Illuminati. The man who rules the world takes on the head of the global elite in this all-new action-packed John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' Illuminati in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Amari's Revenge. The goddess next door is confronted by a Nubian queen out for revenge at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in this inaugural Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Amari's Revenge in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.